Good afternoon, everybody. It's Friday. That means it's time for Today in Media, when Julia Nissa and I go down and we break down the 5 most foolish takes that we've seen today. Let's start off with CNN and a little bit of misinformation that they put out there today regarding the dossier.
By Clinton campaign and Democrat National Committee
I know the history of the
dollars.
dossier, but it hasn't been discredited. In fact, it's been the opposite. It's been corroborated.
Really?
Yes.
Really? Oh, okay.
Your intel community. Your intel community has corroborated all of the details in there. The meetings,
the details,
face
not all the details.
Hold on, Congressman. Let's go over it. Let's go over the facts. They've corroborated the contacts made between the high-level Trump team and Russians, the conversations made between the Trump team and Russians, the face-to-face meetings between the Trump team and the Russians. The only part that you're fastening on is the most salacious stuff, which we haven't reported.
No.
Wow. Okay, so everything has been corroborated. Yeah, I don't think so. Actually, so this is what I love. They will say with a straight face, everything has been corroborated. And then later on in the segment, after the Congressman Jim Jordan literally laughs at her because that's the only thing he can do when presented with this complete misinformation, she says, well, everything but the most salacious details. First of all, the salacious details, aka the P-tape, I know what we're all talking about, has not been confirmed. But she's like, oh, high-level contacts between the Russians and the Trump campaign? Julia, is that true?
I think this is certainly questionable. I mean, obviously the biggest issue of this entire thing in the looking into Russia and this dossier is, were these true? And we
no.
The answer is no.
Where's
and
the proof?
For her to say that these connections are fully corroborated, and that's just like certain obvious misinformation.
Total Trump derangement syndrome. It's what you see every day. If these people cannot even get the most basic facts straight when they're interviewing members of Congress, how do you expect them to hold anybody of real power to account? But I digress. Let's move on to MSNBC. They had this to say about the president and his relation to so-called racists.
Look, I don't find any of this shocking. I don't find any of this shocking from Roy Moore. I don't find any of this shocking from President Trump. What I have said, and I've thought this all along, all you have to do is look at a president who is the #1 choice of 8 out of 10 skinheads, and it's pretty clear what his ideology is and who he supports. So it's really just going to be up to the voters and whether or not anybody in his party is capable of demonstrating disgust at people who seem to be advocating a belief system that says that other folks are subhuman and aren't really part of the American dream.
Wow, so 8 out of 10 people who are white supremacists, who are disgusting white supremacists, supposedly support Donald Trump, well, in this guy's theoretical analysis. Ergo, Trump is a racist. How does that logic go?
That doesn't really fit any kind of logical sequence whatsoever. Just because someone endorses you doesn't necessarily make you a reflection of that endorsement.
This is what drives me insane. 8 out of 10 people of anything endorse somebody, that ergo that person inherently agrees with that. I mean, let's go and look at 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 people who have committed violent crimes in the name of Antifa probably agree with the Democratic Party, right? Does that mean that the Democratic Party fully endorses wholesale violence? No, it's stupid. It's a specious argument. Going out there and spewing this type of crap just divides the country, and it creates a false narrative that I think is inherently disingenuous and I think dangerous. But we'll move on. We'll go back to MSNBC. This time we have Mika Brzezinski had this to say about Al Franken's primary accuser.
We've never really talked about the woman who first came out against Al Franken, who's in the picture that you say, Susan, is just the death knell. I would think a dress owned by Monica Lewinsky would bring down a president, but it didn't. So I'm surprised that you think a comedian's picture of a performer, Playboy model who goes on Hannity, who voted for Trump. I see some politics there, but I haven't brought that up every step of the way because, of course, in this Me Too environment, you must always just believe the women.
Wow, let's take a look at some of the terms that she used there. Playboy model, Trump voter, appeared on Hannity. She is laying the groundwork for this woman is inherently untrustworthy. So the message that Mika, a supposed champion of women has is if you are a Trump supporter, if you are a Republican, or if you pose nude on a magazine, you are an untrustworthy person.
Exactly, and look at the moral relativity that she proposes here as well. She mentions Monica Lewinsky's dress versus a photo and a comedian. what are we supposed to get from that? That one is more morally relative than the other, and that one is higher of some kind of like consequence than the other? No, that doesn't make any sense. The fact of the matter is that Al Franken had this pattern of 8 accusers, and he should have been graceful, and he should have resigned immediately. He still has not officially resigned yet, and so for her to make that case is totally unfounded.
What Mika shows is the underlying current amongst the entire liberal elite, which is they don't think Al Franken should have gone anywhere. Let's look at the reality. The entire left wants you to believe that if you're pro-life, you're not pro-women. That if you voted for Trump, you're not pro-women. 52% or 48% of women in this country voted for Donald Trump. So I guess almost half of the women in this country are not pro-women, according to people like Mika Brzezinski. It is disgusting. This is entirely what the new feminist movement is all about, and it shows you exactly who she is as a person. But, we're going to go back to our favorite MSNBC contributor, and he actually, this is Steve Schmidt, who starts to attack the president for slurring his words at the end of a speech.
When you look at all of it, this is worthy of discussion. The question of his fitness, of his stability is in the air, and it doesn't get better when you see clear impairments. I don't know. Is that a tooth problem? Is that something else?
All right, I honestly think Steve should know better here. Steve Schmidt was chairman of the McCain campaign, and I seem to remember somebody in 2008 going on TV talking about how it was disingenuous and disgusting to question Senator McCain's health. Here we go. This is, again, total Trump derangement syndrome. That's what it is. The same guy who excoriated reporters and people for asking about Senator McCain and his history of cancer is now going out there and saying that because the president slurred his word at the end of a speech, that we should start questioning his mental fitness and healthiness for the Oval Office. There you go, everybody. That's it.
Yeah, it's true. I think this shows 2 things here. Number one is that anyone on the media will look for any excuse to call out Trump when it comes to his mental health because of his age. Well, they use the same argument against Reagan in the 1980s, so I think that's kind of out of it. But secondly, anyone from the McCain camp is so bitter against Trump, and we're obviously seeing that here with Steve Schmidt. They're obviously not together right now, but at the same time, he worked on his campaign, and so a lot of people from the McCain camp are just downtrodden.
I see what you're doing, Steve. I think it's wrong. And hey, when the president did it to Hillary Clinton, I thought it was wrong then too. But we'll go to MSNBC. We're going to close again. And this time, the basic message of this next segment is that the Democrats are the purest people who have ever walked the face of this earth. Just watch how much they praise them in this interview.
Jason, your thoughts about the possibly positive education that the public are. I don't know how you can avoid the education in this. The worst you can say about the Democrats is they're too pure. And that's the stupid thing to say, but that's the worst thing you can say about it. These guys set too high a standard for public office. How's that for an argument? My opponents, that party of my opposition, they set too high a standard.
Democrats are the most pure. Okay, let's go through a list here. John Conyers, Al Franken, Bill Clinton. How many more do we have to say? Yeah, there's a serious pattern here of the Democrats not being the most pure. And so for Chris Matthews to go on an obvious party byline and say, hey, this is who the Democrats are the most pure because I side with them, A, just shows total journalistic bias. You blatantly said this is my party on air. And B, that's just not true. There are from both sides people who are accused of sexual misconduct. And actually right now, 2 have resigned. And one has resigned, says he will resign, and one says that he is going to retire because of these.
I bet you put a gun to Chris Matthews' head and you said, should Al Franken resign? I think we all know what the answer was.
And let's not forget who the last president that was impeached was. That was Bill Clinton. And why? Not necessarily because of sexual misconduct, but Monica Lewinsky, we're throwing it out there.
So there we go. That's the 5 most foolish takes that we saw this week. We'll be back at you on Monday. Thank you guys so much for watching, and that's today.